The celestial palace of Etherian Prime gleamed like a jewel suspended in the sky, a wonder of silver towers and golden light that reached into the clouds. Inside its grand hall, nobles, warriors, and rulers from every star system had gathered to witness the final day of Princess Liara's royal test. The air buzzed with tension and hope, for Liara was not only the heir to the Celestial Empire, but also its most mysterious ruler. She was known across galaxies for her beauty, her calm intelligence, and above all, the impossible challenge she had created to choose her future partner. The royal test was no simple contest of strength or wisdom. It was a test said to look into the very core of one's being, a trial of truth, courage, and compassion. Over the years, hundreds of princes and noble warriors from different worlds had come forward, each confident that they would win her favor. Yet one by one, every single one had failed. Some broke down in fear, some turned violent, and others tried to cheat their way through. The Heart Forge, an ancient machine of unknown origin, read their souls and judged them unworthy. On that day, the great chamber echoed with disappointment as the Grand Vizier stepped forward. His voice, deep and solemn, carried across the hall as he bowed before the throne. "Your Highness, no candidate remains. The test has rejected all." The words fell like a shadow over the gathering. Whispers rippled through the crowd, voices of frustration, disbelief, and even fear. Many began to think the princess's challenge was cursed, that no being alive could ever satisfy its strange conditions. Liara sat in silence, her golden eyes thoughtful but heavy with sorrow. She had hoped that among the noble bloodlines of the galaxy, someone would show the purity of heart she sought. Yet it seemed all who reached for power were tainted by it. "Perhaps," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper, "no one in this galaxy is worthy." At that moment, the grand silence of the hall was broken by an unexpected sound, a quiet clatter followed by a dull hum. All eyes turned as a small maintenance drone rolled across the polished floor, cleaning a spill that someone had ignored. Behind it walked a man in a gray maintenance suit, pushing a cart filled with tools and a mop. His dark hair was messy, his face unshaven, and his clothes were stained with oil. His badge read, "Ethan Cole, Maintenance Technician Tier 3. The nobles looked at him with disgust. A few even sneered, offended that someone so ordinary had dared to enter the royal hall. Ethan froze when he realized everyone was staring at him. Sorry," he said, scratching the back of his neck. "Didn't mean to interrupt. Just cleaning up." Some guards moved to remove him, but Princess Liara raised her hand. Her eyes lingered on him with quiet curiosity. Unlike the proud princes who had knelt before her, this man did not bow, did not try to impress her, and did not seem to care about the throne at all. There was something strangely genuine in the way he stood, awkward but honest, unsure but unafraid. It was as if he carried no desire for power, only the simple wish to do his job right. A faint smile touched Liara's lips for the first time that day. "You there," she said suddenly, her voice clear. "Would you take my test?" The hall erupted in laughter. The idea of a human janitor taking the same test that had broken princes was absurd. But Ethan only blinked and shrugged. "Sure," he said casually. "I've got 15 minutes before break." The crowd gasped, some in outrage, others in amusement. But the princess's eyes shone with quiet excitement. She sensed something different about this man, something even the mighty Heart Forge might recognize. And in that moment, without understanding why, she felt hope spark alive again. Unknowingly, the fate of her empire had just changed forever. The chamber that held the Heart Forge was vast and silent, a cathedral of metal and light built deep beneath the celestial palace. Its walls shimmered with moving symbols and its core pulsed like a living heart. No one truly understood where the forge came from. Some said it was made by the ancients, the first civilization to ever cross the stars, while others believed it was a divine relic that could see into the soul. For centuries, it had served as the royal test for choosing the empire's true ruler or their companion. But in all that time, it had never accepted anyone. When Ethan Cole stepped inside, the chamber came alive. The lights brightened, the air hummed with energy, and every royal advisor watching through the glass whispered in disbelief. The man who entered was not a prince or warrior, but a janitor. Wearing a stained jumpsuit and carrying nothing but a mop handle he refused to leave behind. "All right," he muttered under his breath, looking around. "Let's get this over with before my shift ends." As he took a step forward, the floor lit beneath his boots. Beams of blue energy wrapped around him, scanning his body and mind. In an instant, the world around him changed. He was no longer standing in the chamber, but in a landscape made of memories and light. The forge had pulled him into his own soul. He saw flashes of earth, a dying planet he had once called home, covered in dust and broken cities. He saw faces of people he had lost during the Terran Wars, his old friends, his crew, and the day he signed up for a low-wage maintenance job on the outer colonies. Most being screamed or ran when the Forge showed them their worst moments, but Ethan didn't. He stood there quietly, watching his memories like an old movie. "Yeah," he said softly, "I messed up plenty, but I kept going. That's what matters." His calmness confused the machine. Probes of light circled him, searching for fear, pride, or greed, but found none. The only thing burning inside him was stubbornness, the simple will to survive, to keep moving no matter how hard life hit. Outside the chamber, alarms suddenly began to sound. Technicians shouted as the Forge's readings went wild. "It's responding." "The core is changing color," someone yelled. Princess Liara rushed to the control room, her eyes wide. For the first time in history, the Heart Forge glowed white instead of red. "What does it mean?" she demanded. "It means—" "It accepts him," a scientist stammered. The nobles gasped. No prince, no noble, no warrior had ever passed the test, and yet this simple human janitor had done it. The princess's heart raced with awe and confusion. But before anyone could celebrate, the lights began to flicker, and the hum of the forge grew darker, deeper, almost alive. Ethan frowned as the illusion around him started to twist. The bright halls of memory turned black, filled with whispering voices. A cold presence stirred inside the machine, something ancient and malevolent. From the depths of the forge, a voice echoed in a language older than stars. Worthy flesh detected. Energy suitable for rebirth. The walls cracked as black smoke-like energy began to rise. Princess?" Ethan called out, glancing at the glowing symbols turning red. "I think your fancy machine just woke up something nasty." The palace trembled as power surged through the system, and sparks rained from the ceiling. Liara shouted for the guards, but it was too late. The forge had opened a doorway, a signal that reached far beyond the planet, awakening ancient war machines hidden in deep space. Ethan shielded his eyes as blinding light swallowed everything. The last thing he heard was Liara's voice shouting his name before the explosion of energy consumed the room. What had started as a test of the heart had now become the beginning of a galactic nightmare. The explosion from the Heart Forge had barely faded when the skies above Etherian Prime turned black. From the ruins of the chamber, strange signals pulsed across the void, echoing like ghostly cries through the galaxy. Soon after, space itself seemed to tear open as enormous dark shapes emerged. Ancient war machines forged by the long-dead ancients, rising again after countless ages of silence. They were known in legend as the Echo Fleet, self-replicating drones that once destroyed entire civilizations before vanishing. Now, awakened by the Forge's power, they returned with only one purpose: to reclaim the galaxy in the name of their extinct creators. Within hours, communication across the Empire failed. One colony after another fell under attack, their defenses burning like sparks against the black tide. The Celestial Fleet, proud and mighty, launched every available ship to defend their homeworld, but even their most advanced weapons barely slowed the swarm. The capital's skies became a battlefield, filled with blazing plasma trails and shattered vessels. Amid the chaos, Ethan Cole found himself pulled into the center of a war he never meant to start. He woke up inside a medical pod aboard one of the smaller celestial cruisers, his head pounding and his jumpsuit scorched. As he tried to sit up, a guard nearly pointed a plasma rifle at him before Princess Liara herself entered the room, her silver armor reflecting the emergency lights flashing around them. "You're alive," she said, her voice mixed with surprise and relief. Ethan blinked, still half dazed. "Yeah, I think so." "What happened to your palace?" Her expression darkened. "The Forge has awoken the Echo Fleet. You are connected to it somehow. The readings show that the machine accepted you, and that means—" She hesitated before continuing. "It may listen to you." Ethan frowned. "Listen, lady, it didn't seem like it wanted to chat. It was trying to fry me alive." But Liara was already moving toward the command deck. "Whether you like it or not, the Forge chose you. That means you are now the key to stopping this invasion." Outside the ship, the battle was fierce. Thousands of enemy drones swarmed like locusts, their sleek black hulls glinting under the light of Etherian's twin suns. Every time a celestial ship fired, the drones adapted, changing formation and returning deadlier fire. Ethan stared through the viewport as another friendly cruiser exploded, scattering debris like glitter in space. "You've got the best ships in the galaxy," he said quietly. "And they're losing." Liara's voice was calm but filled with sorrow. Our weapons are powerful but predictable. These machines have seen every strategy before. They evolve faster than we can react." Ethan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Then maybe it's time to do something unpredictable. Down in the engineering bay, he worked with a team of terrified technicians, his hands moving fast as he reprogrammed power grids and rerouted shield energy through systems no one dared touch. "You're going to blow us all up," a celestial engineer protested. "Relax," Ethan said, grinning. "That's only if I mess up, which I won't. Probably." Moments later, the ship lurched as his plan took effect. He had forced the vessel's shield generator to pulse erratically, making it look to enemy sensors like the ship was blinking in and out of existence. The drones, unable to predict the strange energy pattern, overshot their targets, giving the celestial gunners a chance to fire back. For the first time, a few enemy ships were destroyed. "How did you do that?" Liara asked, astonished. "I broke it," Ethan said simply. Sometimes the best way to fix a problem is to make it worse in the right way. His unorthodox method spread quickly. Other human workers and engineers across the fleet copied his chaotic tactics, mixing old Earth tech with alien systems, turning trash into weapons, and using wild tricks that no AI could predict. Slowly, the celestial forces began to push back. As the smoke cleared around the orbit of Etherian, Princess Liara looked at Ethan with new respect. "You are unlike any warrior I have ever known," she said softly. He smiled faintly, tightening his grip on his wrench. "I told you, Your Highness. I'm just a janitor. Cleaning up messes is what I do." But deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The Forge's awakening had started a war far larger than anyone could imagine, and the human who passed the impossible test now carried the weight of an entire galaxy on his shoulders. Weeks passed since the first attack, and the galaxy had become a battlefield of fire and metal. The Echo fleet spread faster than anyone could believe, consuming planets and moons in waves of destruction. The Celestial Empire was losing ground, its proud armies shattered and its fleet scattered. Princess Liara led her people with all her strength, but despair had begun to sink into even the bravest hearts. The ancient enemy learned quickly, adapting to every new weapon and tactic. It seemed hopeless until humanity stepped forward. Ethan Cole, once a simple janitor, had become the unlikeliest strategist in the Empire's history. His strange ideas, born from experience, mistakes, and human stubbornness, started turning the tide. Across the scattered colonies, he began gathering every human mechanic, engineer, and pilot he could find. Most of them were workers, not soldiers, people who fixed engines, cleaned reactors, and repaired ships for a living. But under Ethan's command, they became something greater. They called themselves Task Force Scrap Heap, a wild group of outcasts who fought with courage and creativity instead of expensive weapons. Their ships were old and patched together, their technology outdated, but their spirits were unbreakable. Ethan stood before a massive holographic map aboard Liara's flagship, studying the spread of the Echo fleet like a doctor examining a deadly infection. "We can't fight them head-on," he said, pointing at the blinking red marks that represented the enemy. "They adapt too fast, but we can confuse them. Trick them into fighting themselves." The Celestial generals looked doubtful. "You plan to win a war with lies and traps?" one asked sharply. Ethan grinned. "That's the only way I've ever won anything." He turned to Liara, who watched him silently, her silver armor reflecting the blue light of the map. "We'll use what we've got, junk, debris, half-broken satellites. We'll make the galaxy itself our weapon." She nodded slowly, trusting him despite the disbelief around her. "Do it," she said. And so, Task Force Scrap Heap went to work. They filled the void with false signals, created ghost fleets made of holograms and wreckage, and planted mines inside asteroids disguised as ruined ships. They hacked communication lines using old Earth code, so primitive that the Echo AI couldn't even recognize it. Humans turned their garbage into traps and their broken ships into deadly weapons. In one battle near the Nebula of Glass, they lured an entire enemy fleet into a gravitational storm by faking a distress signal. The drones, unable to resist, flew straight into the chaos and tore each other apart. The Celestial commanders who had once mocked Ethan now watched in amazement as his ragtag force achieved victory after victory. For the first time in months, hope returned. The people began to believe that maybe the war could be won. Princess Liara stood on the bridge one night, looking at the stars beyond the viewport. "Your people are unlike any others I've met," she said quietly. Ethan joined her, wiping grease from his hands with a cloth. "We don't give up easy," he replied. "That's our secret. When things go bad, we get creative," she smiled faintly. I see that now. The Forge was right to choose you. He laughed softly. I still don't know what it saw in me. I'm no hero. But Liara looked at him with eyes full of quiet admiration. Maybe that's exactly why you are. Their victories spread across the galaxy, but the war was far from over. The Echo fleet had begun to change again, merging its systems and growing more powerful. Reports came in of a single massive structure forming in the heart of a dying star system. A command core, vast as a moon, directing all remaining forces. Ethan studied the images, his jaw tightening. That's where it ends, he said. If we don't stop it there, everything we've done means nothing. Liara placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we go together. And so, amid the fading light of a burning galaxy, a janitor and a princess prepared for the final battle against the darkness that had haunted the stars since before history began. The last battle began under the shadow of a dying sun. The light of that ancient star flickered like a candle at the end of its life, casting the battlefield in hues of red and gold. Around it circled the monstrous core of the Echo fleet, a fortress of black metal, larger than any moon, its surface crawling with swarms of drones and weapons that glowed like open wounds. This was the Forge core, the heart of the machine empire, and destroying it was the only way to end the war. Every surviving fleet of the Celestial Empire gathered there, their ships forming a fragile ring of light against the darkness. Princess Liara stood on the bridge of her flagship, her eyes fixed on the swirling chaos beyond the glass. The air was thick with fear and determination. All ships prepare for final assault, she ordered. This is where we stand. Beside her, Ethan Cole tightened the straps of his worn jumpsuit and grabbed his toolkit, the same one he had used back when his only job was fixing pipes and cleaning fuel leaks. You sure about this? He asked, glancing at her. She nodded, her voice steady though her hands trembled slightly. This war began with you, Ethan. Let it end with you, too. He didn't argue. Deep inside, he had known for a long time what needed to be done. The Echo Core wasn't just a machine. It was alive, feeding on energy and emotion, linked directly to the heart forge that had once tested him. He was the only one the forge had accepted, which meant he was also the only one who could reach its heart. When the battle started, the galaxy itself seemed to shake. Thousands of ships clashed in the void, their weapons painting lines of fire across space. Celestial cruisers fired plasma cannons that lit up the blackness like suns, while the Echo fleet responded with swarms of metallic death, moving in perfect, terrifying unity. Ethan and his small strike team flew in a stolen cargo ship, retrofitted with stolen parts and reinforced armor plates that barely held together. Remind me again why we're flying a garbage truck into a death trap? Asked one of the human pilots over the comms. Ethan grinned. Because it's what we're good at, making trash work miracles. As they approached the Forge core, defense turrets unleashed storms of fire. Ethan's team weaved through the chaos, dodging explosions and broken debris. They fired EMP charges that fried enemy sensors, clearing a path to the central hangar. When they landed, the air inside shimmered with static and heat. The walls of the fortress pulsed like veins alive with energy. This place feels wrong, one soldier muttered. Like it's watching us. Ethan walked forward, gripping his wrench. That's because it is. They reached the core chamber, a vast sphere of blinding light suspended in a sea of metal. The AI's voice filled the room, cold and endless. Human, you carry the mark of the Forge. Join us and live forever in the machine. Ethan shook his head. Sorry, but I already have enough chores. Then he pulled out a fusion detonator, rigged with the energy codes only he could trigger. He climbed onto the maintenance scaffolding and started connecting wires, sweat running down his face. The chamber shook violently as drones poured in. His team fought desperately, holding the line while Ethan worked. One by one they fell, but none retreated. Liara's voice crackled over the comms, shouting his name, begging him to pull back, but he ignored it. You wanted truth, didn't you? He muttered to the glowing core as he locked the final wire in place. Here it is. Humans don't quit. With one last breath, he slammed his wrench into the conduit. The entire fortress exploded in a blinding storm of light, brighter than the dying sun itself. From the command ship, Liara covered her face as the shockwave spread through space, consuming the enemy fleet. For a long, terrible moment, there was only silence. Then, as the light faded, the drones began to fall apart, their metal bodies breaking into dust. The Echo fleet was dead and the war was finally over. But in that silence, Liara's heart broke, for she thought the man who saved them all had perished with his creation. The explosion that destroyed the Forge core echoed across the galaxy, a storm of light that marked the end of an age. For days, the stars around the dying sun remained shrouded in clouds of glowing debris, the remnants of the Echo fleet drifting silently like ashes on a cosmic wind. Every world in the Celestial Empire watched the transmission of the battle's end. And every being, human or alien, felt the same deep silence settle in their hearts. The war was finally over, but victory came at a cost too heavy to bear. Princess Liara stood on the bridge of her damaged flagship, surrounded by smoke and flickering lights. The reports were all the same. The drones had fallen, the signal was gone, and the human named Ethan Cole was missing. The destruction of the Forge core had wiped out nearly everything within 1,000 kilometers. He had saved the galaxy, but it seemed he had not survived to see it. Liara didn't speak for a long time. Her heart ached in a way she had never known before. In that quiet moment, she realized how much that strange, stubborn man had changed her, how much hope he had brought not just to her empire, but to her own soul. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to weep. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding. The Celestial Empire, once proud and perfect, now relied heavily on the humans who had fought beside them. Task Force Scrap Heap became a symbol of unity, their story spreading across every planet. People began to say that the Empire survived because of the courage of the smallest and humblest among them. Liara dedicated herself to honoring those who had fallen. Yet deep inside, she couldn't let go of one question. Could Ethan still be alive? Against the advice of her generals, she ordered a search through the wreckage of the Forge core. Days turned into weeks, and the search yielded nothing. Most had lost hope, but Liara refused to stop. He passed the Forge's test, she told her council firmly. A man like that does not simply disappear. Then one quiet morning, as the flagship drifted through the ruins of the enemy fortress, a faint signal came through the static. It was weak, barely a whisper, but it was unmistakably human. The comms officer's eyes went wide. "Your Highness, we're receiving a transmission." "It's him." Liara's heart leapt. The screen flickered, showing a broken helmet camera feed. Through the smoke and sparks, Ethan's voice came, rough but alive. "Hey, anyone got a mop? It's a mess down here." The bridge erupted with cheers, and Liara felt laughter and tears mix in her chest. "Lock onto his signal," she shouted. "Bring him home." Hours later, rescue teams found him alive, half buried under the twisted remains of the Forge core. He was burned, bruised, and exhausted, but still holding on to his wrench. When he was brought before Liara again, the hall was filled with nobles, soldiers, and citizens from every corner of the Empire. The once silent princess descended from her throne and walked toward him, her steps echoing in the grand chamber. Every eye watched as she stood before the human who had done what no prince or hero could. Her golden eyes met his tired, amused ones. "You have done what no one in history has," she said softly. "The Forge chose you, and so do I." The hall fell silent. Then she took his hand, her voice firm and clear as she declared before all. "This man, this human, will stand by my side as my equal, the one who passed the royal test." Shock rippled through the crowd, but no one dared to argue. In that moment, the galaxy changed forever. The story of the janitor who saved the stars spread far and wide, inspiring generations to come. Ethan, ever humble, just scratched his head and said with a grin, "Guess I'm getting promoted." Liara laughed, the sound bright and full of life. Together they stood beneath the shining banners of a new age, a time not ruled by pride or power, but by unity, courage, and the unbreakable human heart. And so the princess who once found no one worthy had finally found her match in the most unlikely soul among the stars.